Why am I so nervous? We're back, we're here, we're present, and we're on this new mindset for 2021. Hi my loves, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another segment of Mindset Monday, and if you don't know what this segment is on my channel, I talk about things that I've experienced personally in my life that has really shaped and molded the mindset that I have today. In my other videos, I told you guys that the whole concept of this was actually that you guys could vote for the topic, but I didn't do that today. I just thought it's 2021, it's the new year, and I wanted to make a video sort of like encompassing how my mindset has changed from 2020 to 2021. And in doing that, I thought, what better way than to talk about the hard lessons that I had to learn in 2020. So if you're interested in that, keep on watching. And I really want to thank everybody for subscribing to my channel. I reached 1,000 subscribers and I'm so happy about this because this was really my goal before 2020 ended, and I reached it like a couple of days before the end of the year. So I'm so grateful for every one of you. I just wanted to sprinkle that in there and really thank all of you guys for all the support, and I just couldn't be happier. 2020 has been one of the hardest years for me. Apart from 2018, 2020 was not it. No, it was really not it. But at the same time, I do feel like 2020 has been one of the most eye-opening years, I think, for everyone, because we had to quarantine, we had to self-isolate. This really like forces you to be in confrontation with yourself, with your thoughts. Like, you're alone most of the time and you're really sort of like restricted in the social aspect, because what else are you gonna do? Like, you can watch movies all day, but you will sit with your thoughts and you will have to reflect and you will have to be confronted with everything that maybe you wouldn't have had the opportunity to if all of this didn't happen. And I know that 2020 has also been a really hard year in terms of mental health for a lot of people, like a lot of losses, a lot of deaths. But yeah, even though I feel like it's been a hard year, I also feel like it has had a lot of benefits. So in this video, I really want to share the most important lessons that I've learned in 2020. Okay, so let's start with the first topic, staying authentic. So when we talk about authenticity, how can we implement this into our lifestyle, into our personality, in the way we function every day? I really live by the motto that people say there's only one you in this world, and nobody can be that. Like, nobody can encompass your you. I feel like we hear this all the time, you know, like, be you, be yourself, you're special in who you are and everything. But the thing that makes this statement, I guess, really important is everything that like comes with being yourself and being authentic. So one of the things that I experienced in 2020 especially was that I was comfortable with who I am, but I still felt like I had to portray like a toned down version of myself because of the way that I felt that I was being perceived, because I felt like people would judge me, or who I wasn't like good enough. This is something that's really hard for someone to accept. I didn't accept it in the beginning. I thought, oh, like, what do you mean? Of course I'm authentic. Like, but in reality, 2020 showed me that's where it goes wrong, because you're doing something not out of who you are, but who you think that people want you to be. So it's not coming from a place of authenticity, you see? For example, I felt like when I was with friends or when I was with certain types of people, I felt like I was always adapting to the like situation. I would sort of like change my demeanor or change my personality, because first of all, that is Libra energy to the T. So let me not talk about that. But there's nothing wrong with being multifaceted, you know, like you can be like a very like flexible, fluid personality. But the thing that I was sort of noticing was that I wasn't doing that from a place of authenticity. I was doing it from a place of fear of judgment, and I always felt like I wasn't being authentic to who I was. I sort of noticed that it wasn't the person who was sort of having me feel like I couldn't be myself. It was my own self-restrictions and my own insecurities, because when you look deeper into it, like, it comes from a place of insecurity as well. My best friend tells this to me all the time. Everyone you meet in your life is going to be a mirror. They are going to reflect aspects of yourself back to you. Meeting anyone in your life is going to be a mirror, because even like in the relationship, it's always a reflection of who you are. What you put out is what you get back. Oftentimes people cannot accept this, and they won't like look into it further and try and do the self-work and, you know, the self-development, the self-growth. So that's a really big lesson that I learned about authenticity. And then a slightly different aspect about authenticity, you always need to stay true to who you are. If you know me, you know that I'm the most emotional person you will ever meet. I feel feelings very intensely. At one point I was just like, you know, like, everybody else doesn't have this. Like, other people don't have like the sympathy that I have or the empathy that I have. I feel like I'm a very empathetic person and a very understanding person, and I always had this problem in relationships as well, where people couldn't really understand why I was feeling like these emotions so intensely. And also the people that I was with, they always made me feel as if, you know, this was a really like negative aspect to my personality. And then what happened, and especially in 2020, was that I was just like, you know, nobody else is like me. Like, everybody that I meet, you know, they can be really cold at times, and I wish I could be that cold. You know, I wish I could be unemotional, because everybody says I'm too emotional. So I was going through this period in 2020 where I was like, you know, no, I'm gonna try and be more cold. Don't ask me, but I was literally so convinced that I had to change who I was. I had to change my personality, because it was not beneficial to the relationships that I was having, because everybody was labeling me as too much or too this or too that. I also felt like people weren't appreciating me, and I
just want to be appreciated.
I was like, no, I'm going to be a cold person, and I'm going to try to be less of who I am in essence, right? Because it's not part of who I am. Like, it doesn't come naturally to me. And that's the thing where we go back to like authenticity, because this is also something that I see a lot around me, is people who want to be something they're not. And again, you're operating from a place of trying to please other people, because you feel like people want you to be like that, or experiences in your life have made you like that. And then I came to the conclusion, like, that's one of the dumbest things that I could even like think of, because that's not who I am. And a big part of being authentic is also letting go of the fear of, you know, being accepted by others. Because if people want to leave your life because you are being authentic to who you are, let them leave, sis. Like, literally let them leave, because the right people will come into your life and the right people will stay in your life regardless of all these traits that you think are unacceptable. Be yourself. The right people will love you for it. And that's also something that I had to sort of accept in my mind, was that no, these things are not bad qualities to have. Like, being someone who feels intensely, it's a really, really beautiful characteristic to have as a person. And I know that a lot of people would be happy to have someone like that in their life. And that's when they say, like, nobody can be you. Like, if you are going around trying to be someone else, like, why would you try and be the next girl? Like, why would you try and be the girl who's, you know, like, walking on the street? Like, then there are two of her. You want to be like a twin? You want to be like a clone of someone else? No, baby girl, like, that's not how it works. That's really not how it works. You cannot try and be someone else, because there's only one of them and there's only one of you. So, okay, so the second lesson that I learned in 2020 is setting boundaries. And oh my god, this is so hard for me. I think this is one of like the biggest obstacles that I'm gonna have to face in my lifetime, because I am like naturally I am not a person who is like, no, like setting boundaries here and there and being like really straight about what I need and what I want. I'm like a very soft-spoken person when it comes to like other people's feelings. Like I don't want to step on people's toes, and I mean, like if you get me angry, then that's another thing, but I mean initially I am not like that. So when we think of setting a boundary, like what does that even look like? So how I envision like setting boundaries is when you sort of like draw a line of where and when you are comfortable with something. So say someone asks you something and you really want to say no, but because I'm a people pleaser, I say yes. Stop doing this. Literally stop doing this, because it will only come and bite you in the ass eventually, because initially you wanted to say no. And that's another thing. I need to put this in my list actually. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your intuition. If your mind initially, like your intuition is that feeling, that little voice that always tells you how you feel about something. So if your intuition tells you, no, I don't want to do that, then don't do it. Your boundary is what you are comfortable with. So the minute that you cross your own boundaries by telling people yes or going into a situation that you know you're not comfortable with, you will not find happiness out of anything that comes out of crossing your own boundaries. You don't have to say yes to everything. Learn to say no. And also, setting boundaries also is taking time for yourself. And if you have to cancel plans, if you have to tell someone, no, I can't listen to you rant about, you know, the same thing that I've been giving you advice on for like 3 years, I can't do that right now. That is setting a boundary. That is like telling the person what you are comfortable with. And saying no isn't always selfish, and taking time for yourself isn't always selfish. It's a necessity. And just to like give you a little idea of what this looks like in my life, if you watch Dr. Honey, she's an astrologist on YouTube, she talks about this example that I'm going to tell you. This is like the embodiment of who I am as a person when it comes to setting boundaries. So she talks about how, okay, say you're sitting in a park. You have a fence around you. You have a literal fence around you, but you're sitting in a park full of people. So now you're sitting in the park, you're like reading or you're just meditating, whatever. You're in your little you're in the middle of your little fence and you're just doing your thing by yourself. So now your friends or people like walk by and they're like, hey Alicia, like why are you sitting there by yourself? Like I'm gonna come sit next to you. And me being like in my own little zone, I'm like, oh no, it's fine, you can stay there. And the person is like, are you sure? Like you look a little lonely, like maybe I should just, no, I'm gonna come. And they literally put their leg over the fence and they try and get in your space even though you said no. And then the person that I am is not, I just said no, did you not hear me? Take your leg and put it back over the fence. I'm the person who's gonna be like, oh, okay, you can come sit next to me. What even is that? Like I said no, and they're still putting their leg over the fence to come into my space, into my aura. I'm reading my book. What do you mean you want to come sit next to me to do what? I'm not even gonna talk to you. But literally, this is then what I do. I didn't want you to come and sit next to me, but you know, it's fine. You can like come sit here. And this is the analogy that I needed to hear, because I do this every time. Like every time someone crosses over my fence, I'm like, you crossed my boundary. I'm like very communicative about it. I'm like, oh, you know what you did, it didn't make me feel nice. Like I didn't like it, but you know, it's fine. And then the next person comes and they put their leg over the fence again. And then I'm like, you crossed my boundary again, but you know, like, and you really want to avoid being the people pleaser. You really want to avoid being the person that cannot set your own boundaries, because you will always sort of be perceived as, you know, oh, I can actually do anything, because they are not going to set boundaries. So if you are in your own little garden and someone tries to jump over your fence, tell them to off. Okay, so another thing that I learned in 2020 is finding happiness. In no way, by the way, am I saying that I have mastered all these topics that I'm talking about. I am literally still in the process of trying to perfect these aspects to being a better version of myself. So basically, when I talk about finding happiness, what I experienced in 2020 was that I noticed that I was trying to find happiness in external factors, and these are all, like it says, it's external. So these things are also replaceable, and these things are also like they change over time, and it can also like be taken away from you. I never sort of attributed happiness to something that is internal or something that can be attained through solely and only me. Of course, like things and people can make you happy, but happiness is something that stems from within. And I know this is something really corny that a lot of people say, but when I tell you that I've experienced this firsthand, like the consequences of this, it is not cute. Like it ain't cute. Let me talk about it. So you cannot put your happiness on one person, because by doing that, you are giving them the power to take that happiness away from you. So what happens is they leave, and what are you left with? Like disappointment, like frustration, like depression, because you cannot find your happiness in yourself. You see what I'm saying? So I really had to learn this the hard way. And I was going through a period in 2020, not even that long ago, where I literally did not understand this concept, because that person was not in my life anymore, and I literally felt like my whole world was collapsing. And that's the thing that you really want to be aware of, that your happiness should not be in other people. You should really find that in yourself. When I was going through this, one of my friends, she gave me an analogy that I thought would be really helpful for you guys as well. So she was talking about how we as people need to be 100%, like full 100% satisfied. So when someone comes into your life, they only add to that happiness. So it might be 150% or 130%. Say that person is removed from your life, you'll be like, okay, like now I'm not at 150 anymore, but I'm at 100. Still like fully happy or fully satisfied with who I am. But it should never be that the way that I was functioning at that moment, I am 100% with that person. And when that person leaves, then I'm left with 70%. Or even 30%. When someone leaves you, you're at 30%. That was me though, but and it should never be the case that you go below that 100% when someone leaves. So yeah, finding happiness should always be a one-person journey. Don't involve other people in that, please. The next thing I learned in 2020 was to trust the timing of your life. Because there is one thing I live by, which is everything happens for a reason. But the part of trusting the timing of your life, I really had to learn in 2020, because I feel like we as humans, and also if you're a creative or even if you're a perfectionist like me, we're thinking of all these plans, or we're comparing ourselves even to other people. And sometimes we need to think about how life isn't always a straight line. There will literally always be bumps, situations that take you out of your timeline, and these things always happen for a reason. So you need to trust that whatever you are going through is happening for a greater purpose. And once you sort of master this mindset, you will feel so like liberated, because every time something happens to you, you won't like stress about it. You won't be caught up in it, like overthinking it, because that's something that I was doing. Like I was always questioning, why is this happening to me? Sit back, take like a big breath, and remember that everything happens only for your purpose. So we've reached the last point that I want to make about what I learned in 2020. I think this is the biggest lesson that I needed to learn, which is being selfish. And of course, you know, I talked about being selfish in the second point that I made about setting boundaries, but I want to talk about the other side of being selfish, which is that once you learn that nobody owes you anything, you will make leaps and bounds in your self-growth journey. It's hard to understand how people can be this selfish, where they're like, I do not owe you anything and this person was your whole life. Like, it will hurt, it will sting. I cannot understand how you hurt me and you don't owe me an explanation. I still have so many problems with this concept even as a whole. You did so many things to me and you do not owe me anything? Girl. And for me, this is just really hard to understand because personally, I am not like that. Like, I always feel like I owe people something. It isn't an explanation. It's, you know, like talking things out. There are going to be people that you meet in your lifetime who will show you the reality that nobody necessarily owes you anything. You know how, okay, so let's say, have you ever been in a situation where you have not received closure about something? And doesn't that feel like so weird to you because you're like, that person owed me some type of closure? But sometimes the reality of things is that nobody owes you anything, and sometimes people will not be able to give you closure at that time or will not be willing to give you closure. There are so many aspects that comes into play about when or how this happens, but there are just going to be situations where you will not receive the things that you expect from people, and you need to be wary of not getting disappointed by this. And I wanted to make this the last point because I feel like it connects back to all the points that I've made. In 2020, I really learned that this comes back to the finding happiness in yourself. Say someone leaves your life, and because they were my happiness, when they took that away, I felt like I was left with nothing. So I felt like they owed me an explanation, they owed me closure. And again, this also has to do with setting boundaries. If someone sets a boundary and you feel like that doesn't align with whatever you want at that moment, that person does not owe you anything. You need to go through life knowing that you are content within yourself, and anything can sort of like blow you over, but it will never really truly break you because you are happy within yourself. And nobody really owes you anything to put that back together. You will overall just be calmer and happier. When I was going through this, I was just like, okay, I can understand that people do not owe me anything, but does it have to be at the expense of my feelings or at the expense of me? But sometimes, like, let me be honest with you, you're gonna have to find that closure within yourself and really try and process this within you. If you feel so entitled that people owe you anything, you will be disappointed a lot of times because not everyone is like you. And that's another thing that I really needed to learn, is that everybody is different. Everybody thinks in their own way. Everybody has had different experiences that have made them have the mindset that they have. So even if you are on your journey, it doesn't mean that someone else is on the same journey. Not everybody thinks the same way that you think. And once you really grasp this concept, you will also learn something about self-love, which is that self-love is also actually being selfish. Because like I said, when you are selfish, you can also see it in a way of, I'm setting my boundaries, I am putting me first, I'm thinking of myself, I'm prioritizing myself, my mental health, my physical health, whatever. So if you expected someone to give you something because you felt like they owed you anything, if they are being selfish about that, don't necessarily see it in a negative way. And that's something that I've learned over time, that anytime something happens to me, I try and think of the situation from the other person's perspective. Even if I am not the way that they are, or even if I totally disagree with whatever they're doing or thinking, it's sort of a way for you to understand that everybody experiences things differently, and you never know what somebody else has experienced over time in their childhood that has made them the way they are, and maybe they're even reacting their stuff onto you. You never know. So guys, that's the end of this video, and I really hope you enjoyed. I really hope that you could relate to some of the things that I was talking about. These were definitely big, difficult lessons that I had to learn in 2020 and that I'm still learning. I really want to encourage you all to maybe think about all the topics. Really try and train your mind to become a better version of yourself every day. A big part of life is self-reflection, and we really need to look at ourselves and reflect on the things we do, the way we think, the way our mindset is made up, to keep on developing, because we are never done with self-growth. If you enjoyed this video, comment down below other Mindset Monday suggestions that you want to see, and subscribe to my channel. I am so excited that I reached 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has been watching me. My channel is really growing every day. So the next goal is 2K subscribers. And if you want to join me on this self-growth journey that I have here on my channel, subscribe to see more Mindset Mondays. I know that I really love making these, so I will definitely be making more soon, and you guys will be able to vote again. To do that, please be sure to follow me on all my social medias. I will link them up here, and especially on my Instagram, because that's where I do the polls where you guys can choose the topic of my Mindset Monday and my Tea Time Thursday videos. So yeah, let's go into this new year with a positive mindset, with an open-minded mindset, and I know that it will take us far. So sending you love and light, and I hope to see you next time.